Hi, my name is Randy Woodley. Along with my wife Edith, I am a co-sustainer of Eloheh Indigenous Center for Earth Justice, and you can find out more about us at eloheh.org. So I've been asked today to talk about the relationship between white supremacy and the climate crisis. So there are some things that are probably pretty obvious, like native reservations and poor Black and Brown communities become the dumping grounds to nuclear waste and other kinds of activities. Jobs are given to poor people who end up subjecting themselves to poisoning and cancers and things like this. So all of that is happening. That's proven. You can see it all kinds of places. But what we don't often talk about is the root of why these things occur. And so that's what I want to talk about today. So I want you to imagine with me, if you will, a place, if you will. You can even close your eyes if you want. And what is that place about? Think about it. That place is a place where deforestation is occurring, where topsoil is depleted, where oceans and bays are polluted and fished out. It's a place where rivers and streams are polluted and the water is undrinkable, where air pollution makes breathing unhealthy, where disease kills tens of thousands, where large mammals are going extinct, where classism reigns via gender, wealth, race, where the cities are overcrowded, where the majority of people are living in poverty, where corruption and greed run rampant, where injustice is the norm except for the top 1%, and hunger and disease and war and economic depression and all of those kinds of things are commonplace. So if you thought about that place, what I want you to think about now is, where is that place? And maybe a better question would even be, when is that place? Because if you guessed the Middle Ages, the late Middle Ages of Western Europe, you would be correct. This is exactly what is occurring in Europe at the time of quote unquote discovery, when people are coming under the guise of the doctrine of discovery given by the Christian church to subject indigenous peoples all over the world to their form of religion and make slaves or kill them. And this was justified by the church, by the doctrines of discovery. This is all occurring because of a particular kind of worldview. And that worldview has not changed in the last 500 plus years. And so now it has come to our own country. And so what are we experiencing? We're experiencing all kinds of horrible things, desertification, coral reefs are dying, the increase of floods and the increase of fires, wildfires, and the increase of hurricanes, and all of those are becoming more frequent and they're becoming more severe. And so all of this is occurring because of a particular Western worldview. And that worldview is still prominent in our country. It has done the earth and has done the world no good. So what is our role in human beings, as human beings, if it's not to subject the earth to our wanton desires? Our role as human beings in creation is to maintain harmony, to maintain balance. This is what we as indigenous people believe. We have the privilege of co-sustaining all creation with the Creator and the earth and the whole community of creation. So our Cherokee word to describe that is Eloheh. So if you are a reader of the scriptures, then you will note that in the Genesis story, there's this whole thing about people being created at the end of the story. And if you're a Western worldview, you probably read that as I was taught at one time, that human beings were the crown of creation and they are to lord over creation. And that's just one worldview. But if you look at this from another particular worldview, that we're not created to rule, but we are created as the only ones who can fill the need to co-sustain, to keep things in balance and to keep things in harmony. That's our role. Not as the crown of glory, but as the only creatures uniquely equipped to co-sustain the rest of creation. It's a responsibility. It's not a privilege. It's not us being over the land, but it's serving and preserving God's creation. And so to be a co-sustainer of the land is actually, of that whole community of creation, to keep things in harmony and balance, is foundationally what it means to be a human being. So the Western worldview leads to alienation from people and from the earth. It leads to alienation because this classic Platonic dualism, which is really what I would call the foundational fallacy of the Western worldview, and all these other maladies come and spring from that. And so that worldview will not sustain us into the future. You know, Chief Seattle said, humankind is not woven the web of life, but we are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together and all things connect. And that's apparently very true, because the kinds of things that are being done to the earth and to its creatures right now are affecting us all. So this travels a long way through time to get to us, folks, from Greece to Rome to the whole Anglo-Saxon myth and to the doctrine of discovery. And then there's the genocide of Native Americans and the enslavement of West Africans. And there's, you know, all of this kind of stuff, but it really flows from the dualism and the hierarchy. So that's the first thing that we have to realize, is that we are subject to a Greek dualistic worldview. In a Western Enlightenment-bound worldview, human beings are categorized apart from creation and over it. The result is a false dichotomy between the physical, the earth, the body, and the ethereal, the mind and the spirit. Theologically, it sort of goes like this. This is a bad material world with potentially good spiritual people who are just aliens and visitors. But an indigenous worldview says that it's a harmonious juncture between all of creation, between the whole community of creation. And the creation is understood both physically and spiritually. And healing then means that it has to be done spiritually and physically, if you will. It's not just one or the other. So what is this dualism about? This idea that you invest in not just the mind, or if you're religious, the spirit over the body. It means that your thoughts become more important, and the products of the mind become more important than what is actually lived experience. And so then laws become more important than people. And I think we are seeing that happening right now in the United States, but I think we are also, we can see that as you journey with Jesus through scriptures. He's always attacking the way they interpret the laws, because they don't consider the needs of people. So in a Western worldview, the nature of the relationship with the land has changed over time. See, all people are indigenous from somewhere at one time or another. The relationship has changed between people and their food. This is sort of like we can ask a group of kids today, where does your food come from? And they don't get that it actually comes from the ground. It comes from someone's farm. They think it comes from the store or from the refrigerator. So the symptoms of this are short-term profiteering and global distancing and, you know, American value of convenience and all those kinds of ugly things that have become the American values of convenience now. So, but there's a corollary between how European Americans have treated both the land and how they've treated the indigenous peoples, and especially women, if you think about this. So, which are really the prime example, but not the only example. If you think about the European Americans' sort of ideas have been to control both the land and women, to objectify both the land and women, to exploit land and women, both to serve at one's pleasure, the man's pleasure, to expect production from both land and women. And this all is a result of a deranged Western worldview. So I want to quote a part of scripture here that talks about our relationship with the land and how we are supposed to relate to it. In Job 12:7-10, it says, "But ask the animals and they will teach you, or the birds of the air and they will tell you, or speak to the earth and it will teach you, or let the fish of the sea inform you. Which of these does not know the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all humankind." So humanity is meant to be in direct relationship with creation. Everything in creation is our relative. Everything, I will say that again, everything in creation is our relative. Finally, I want to just say what I see happening, and I hope that you can kind of grasp this, but for millennia, um, there's this whole of creation has been producing enough energy to allow humans limited consumption, but humanity and what I call the Euro-Patricene, it's not the Anthropocene and it's not even the Eurocene, it's the Euro-Patricene. It's the white Western male dominant sort of worldview that everything, even science, has been slanted to accommodate. But this Euro-Patricene, has accelerated the consumption exponentially of what is occurring. Grandmother Earth is now trying to rebalance herself through the overuse of random acts of nature. She's reclaiming lost territory, spitting out the inhabitants in order to restore harmony. The top of the food chain is actually the earth herself. That is a scary thought. That is the stuff of horror movies. And if you have been experiencing any of these things, like we have the wildfires and the particulate matter, not being able to breathe the air outside, and those kinds of things like we have here in the Northwest, you know that this is sort of like a horror movie. Folks, it's this Western worldview, this Platonic dualism that invests in the ethereal over the physical, that invests in the products of the mind, the laws, the scripture, or whatever it is that you hold above actual people and actual lived experience. That is what is causing what's occurring now. Human beings are extracting energy from the earth at a level like never before. We're putting carbon into the air faster than it has in the last 6 million years. There's incredible heartache ahead if we don't change our ways. And so from me to you, I'm begging you, begin to change. Thank you.